What's up? What's up? This is Joe King here doing another topical tokenomics, and this week we're talking about Maker DAO and DAI. This is where DeFi got started, so let's go ahead and understand a little better this protocol that kicked off this amazing industry that we all know and love. Or maybe you're new, who knows? So what is the overview of Maker DAO? Well, Maker DAO got started in 2014, officially launched in 2017, and it is the grandfather of all DeFi protocols. It is the first 100% on-chain decentralized lending and borrowing system ever built. Finance textbooks will have to cover this as it goes on because it is such an incredible system that was built. But it's also known as the multi-collateral DAI system, and it's used to generate DAI by leveraging collateral assets. These assets have to be approved by Maker governance. So Maker DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, is run by those who hold the governance token MKR Maker. These guys get to go ahead and vote on how the system runs, how it operates, and what collateral you can post. When Maker DAO first started, Ethereum Ether was the only asset allowed, and as time went on, they allowed things like Wrapped Bitcoin, Link, Uniswap, Yearn, Matic, goes down. But obviously, the riskier the asset, the higher the collateral ratio is going to be, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the point is, the Maker DAO governance system gets to decide what assets are being used as collateral and can change their minds over time. So if the market and certain assets begin to become more volatile, they can go ahead and turn off new vaults being used by that. There's two tokens in the system, the MKR token and the DAI token. MKR is the governance rights and also voting rights for the Maker system, and you can also make proposals to better the protocol on the forums and eventually lead to a DAO-wide vote of whether or not they want to implement your things. I'm a Maker DAO delegate with Governance House and Llama, and just taking the time to read all the proposals in the Maker forums is a full-time job. That's why they pay us. It's absolutely insane how much information and how many ideas are posted there. It's one of the most active communities in DeFi and crypto. And if you're interested in understanding how governance works with a complex financial system, I highly recommend you dig into the Maker DAO forums and spend some time there. It's really fascinating, and it's a deep dive into how on-chain governance looks. So, the Maker DAO token itself, fully diluted market cap of $1.2 billion. Over 1 million tokens were originally made, and the total supply currently is 977. That's because they burn tokens. Maker DAO makes profits in a variety of ways between origination fees, liquidation fees, and the actual annual percentage rate you pay to borrow money from the system. Part of those fees are used to keep running the system, and the other part of those fees are used to buy back and burn the Maker token. If you're holding an MKR token and they buy back and burn one, clearly the supply is now less, demand of the token goes up, price goes up. General idea to reward those who hold the Maker token. It's just like a stock buyback, very similar mechanism. And then what is DAI? DAI is a decentralized stablecoin. It's a one-to-one peg to the US dollar, but it's a loose peg mechanism. It's the first decentralized stablecoin. That is the actual textbook definition of what an over-collateralized stablecoin is. Because of this, it usually has an attractive yield, higher than USDC or higher than USDT. That is because the system is backed by crypto assets, meaning they're more volatile, more risk happening in the system. The more risk, the more reward. Very simple risk curve. Now, DAI is very useful. NFT sales, e-commerce platforms have plugins like Shopify so your website can take DAI as payment. Gaming platforms like Steam are using DAI. It's an incredible way to stay on-chain with your money and ignore all those centralized organizations that we're trying to escape from in DeFi. So what is a soft peg? The soft peg is just meant to track the price of $1 as close as possible, but it's not meant to maintain a perfect peg like USDC or USDT. No one is freaked out in the Maker world when DAI is trading at 1.05 or 0.005 or at 0.995. It's just normal. There's built-in slack and elasticity in the system to allow the coin to fluctuate a little bit. It just takes how things work in markets, you know. So how are the Maker vaults actually operated? It's important as the base layer of how all this works. So it's a 100% bankless system. It's permissionless borrowing and lending. DAI is borrowed. There's no credit scores. There's no gatekeepers. There's no fat cat in the bank telling you can and cannot loan it out. And there is nobody asking you what you're using the assets for. It's up to you, whatever you want. The collateral is backed by your own assets. Now, Maker recommends you keep 300% in your thing. So it means if you want to borrow put $9,000 worth of Ether into a vault and borrow 3,000 DAI, you can be totally safe. but your vault is good up to 150%. So if you want to YOLO that all the way to 4,500, pray only goes up, you're good to go. If the value of your collateral drops below that 150% mark, the vault begins to liquidate you. This is the bad part. So liquidations. If your collateral goes below 150% and assets, you start to get wrecked, meaning that they start to sell your assets to repay your loan. And they use this to stabilize the DAI peg, as well as the collateralized debt position itself you hold is at risk. So if you owe money, it begins to sell your ETH to buy back that DAI to repay your loan to protect the system. Even during this recent massive blow up with USDT and Terra, as the whole crypto market crashed, Maker DAO functioned as normally. Even though assets were dropping 30% in a day, Maker DAO's DeFi smart contracts liquidated folks, the system worked as intended, there was no unintended consequences, DAI maintained its peg, and the market functioned really well. It's kind of a testament to show what we can do with DeFi versus all these centralized lenders were blowing up, or in 2008 when the banks blew up because of collateral. We don't have those problems with smart contracts. They operate as the code is intended, and as we all know, we enter into these contracts. So let's kind of go through a model of what happens when a liquidation takes place. So let's say we have an under-collateralized vault. That collateral goes up in an auction, and this is usually done by bots, but humans can do it too, but just bots are obviously faster, so it takes place quicker. But anybody can go ahead and submit their DAI bids to liquidate the vault, and the highest bidder wins. So if they're trying to get $100,000 or 100,000 DAI back out and there's all this ETH in there, they can go ahead and have an auction, and usually it'll bid up to the price needed, very close to market price. Yeah, so the highest DAI bidder wins. Now, also case one. The vault is bankrupt. They tried to go ahead and auction it off. They couldn't get it done, and there was a problem with the system. So they had 100,000 DAI was owed. They could only get $90,000 worth of DAI bid to buy that collateral. Maybe the price crashed that quickly. Well, what they do to fix the system is they mint extra MKR, and they go ahead and sell it back into DAI to fix the system. This means that MKR holders are getting diluted to make sure the system works. It's a risk you take for holding the token and being steward of the protocol. But this doesn't happen very often, and it's never happened before, and it's a really bad case for Maker. Case two, bid, the vault, the DAI plus liquidation penalty, meaning that the collateral was sold, everything was covered inside of it, and the fee was done, and the owner has nothing left. So basically, you keep the DAI you borrow. If I borrow that 100,000 DAI, they take my $150,000 worth of ETH, they liquidate it, I get to keep my DAI. I lost $50,000 worth of ETH, which is no fun, but by the time this probably happened, that ETH was only worth $100,000. And the best case scenario is case three, where at $100,000 that I borrowed in DAI, they liquidate my ETH at $150,000. They give me my $50,000 worth of ETH. I keep my DAI, and then they also take out the liquidation fee on top of that as well, which is usually about 15% of the total loan amount. But yeah, you get to keep your DAI and hopefully get some of your collateral back as well. I have this little thing over here on the right to go through it, but basically, if they have the inability to mint any more MKR tokens, the ecosystem sees Maker has broken because of the wave of bankruptcies and defaults happening, and the market cap Maker will fall, meaning that Maker can't issue Maker to pay for the debt, and the systems die, and the whole thing gets rugged. But said, luckily, these two cases have never happened. Usually, things operate as promised in case 2 and case 3, and everything is done the way it's supposed to. Like I said, these things are auctioned, right? So we have these actors in the space. One's called a keeper, and the keepers are incentivized to keep that constant watch for vaults that are becoming under collateralized. If they become to get liquidated, we said that 13% is added to the vault, so you actually pay a lot. So your goal is to go ahead and you want to get yourself out of that position as fast as possible. If ETH is unwinding in value very quickly and you have an ETH loan on DAI, you don't want to get liquidated because you're going to lose 13% of your amount. You're better off just selling it yourself, closing that position out very quickly, and getting your ETH back. Let's talk about how does Maker make money. Well, MKR holders profit from the DAI fees. They're burned and used to purchase the MKR token back, and then burned to reduce supply. There's a stability fee, which is basically like an APY, and that's a variable rate fee continuously added to the vault owners. And this fee is sent to the DAO for in-house work, as in incentivizing people like ourselves at Governance House and Llama to keep an eye on the system, to vote on proposals, for devs to build new dashboards and front ends, as well as people to continue to maintain the website and running the entire system. And then all these liquidation penalty fees, that 13% from the last slide, goes right into the DAO treasury to continue to finance operations for Maker. Governance structure. Maker is governed by the MKR token. It's held by individuals, and more increasingly we're seeing VCs and investment firms and other DAOs buying up large amounts of Maker. There's a lot of different reasons to do that. Some is the onboarding of collateral, which we'll get into in just a second. And then voting rights. You have to lock your MKR token in a contract in return for IOU tokens while the vote is being conducted. When the vote is finished, those IOU tokens get repaid and you get your Maker back. So you're constantly putting your Maker into a contract and pulling it back out. This is an inefficient system. It just happens to be an old legacy add-on from the system from when Maker DAO was built in 2017. Nowadays, we have a lot of different things like vote escrow tokens and I tokens to make voting for DAOs much easier. But because of how this smart contract was deployed, they're still using this old system for voting with these IOU tokens. And it's gas intensive. So when gas prices are high, voting can be expensive. We saw the Maker DAO voting pool go down a lot for a number of participating MKR holders as gas got more expensive, because a lot of times, why am I going to spend $120 in gas fees to vote on something that's not that important versus an important vote? Then we'll definitely have to pay the gas fees to make sure Maker operates properly. So what can MKR holders vote on? MKR holders can vote on new types of collateral. They can change, add, remove risk parameters. They can modify DAI savings rates. They can choose the Oracle feeds. Oracle feeds are a really important part of how the system works, right? So if the Maker Vault is being told that the price of ETH is $1,000, but all of a sudden Oracle says it's $800, not $1,000, it can liquidate vaults automatically. This is done all through the smart contract. There's no human watching this. So if the price feed that we're getting suddenly is bad, it can cause all kinds of issues. This way, that's why Maker DAO has done an Oracle feed. It's an aggregated group of oracles coming in. So Chainlink is one of those popular Oracle. We use Chainlink as well, but also a bunch of other oracles are fed into the system to make sure we're getting a consistent price and we don't have any risk of these trigger liquidations. Emergency oracles can be chosen by parts of the DAO as well to quickly stop this. The MKR holders can trigger a full shutdown of the system, basically a system-wide pause in case something is getting really crazy. Can do upgrades and also vote to make changes to the protocol. The key roles of the DAO are keepers. These are usually automated bots we talked about who kind of go through and help keep the peg through arbitrage and look for different liquidations. We have the oracles, ones who are choosing where the price feeds are coming from, and then the DAO has their own set of teams, which could be marketing, development, social media, community management, things like that. And then there's the global settlers, which are the kind of the emergency oracles that have these special permissions to go ahead and shut the system down. They can freeze individual things. They can mitigate the risk of large numbers of withdrawals happening in a short period of time. And they kind of have the authority to unilaterally trigger anything they need to make sure the system functions properly. It's a very important and very powerful role that has barely been used in the history of Maker. I hope you learned some things about Maker DAO today and kind of understand, and I hope you go out there and jump into the system. Go ahead and take a loan out against some ETH, play with some DAI, and see what it can do. It's a pretty amazing system and kind of the first big Lego block that we built in DeFi, and kind of an amazing piece of history for everything we're going to have, and it continues to grow. Maker is now onboarding real-world assets like collateralized mortgage positions and different bank holdings. There's also some talk now bringing in real estate as well, which is kind of incredible to take these real-world assets, bring them on-chain, and be able to borrow DAI against them. This is how the wealthy in the world have made a lot of their money. They don't sell assets, they just borrow against them to keep growing their portfolios. So I think it's really cool we can do that in DeFi now. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and hit that like and subscribe button.